Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call our July County Council meeting to order. If you would, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on our agenda is our auditor's financial report.
Okay. We have a beginning net balance for the general fund of $5,676,257. Now, I have mentioned in the last meeting or so that our revenues have come in. We had two high distributions or receipts that we posted, the special lit and also proceeds from land. DLGF doesn't really ask or give us a method to modify our projected miscellaneous revenue, but for the purposes of this report, I could do that. Haven't yet, but might do it for a future meeting. So you've granted additional appropriations of $1,957,811, and we have miscellaneous expenditures of $293, leaving an amount available for appropriation of $3,718,153. If I adjusted those projected miscellaneous revenues, then we would be back up to about where we were. As far as revenues, tracking pretty well.
When you say back, excuse me, when you say back to where we were, you mean back up to the 5.6 million?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Because the large appropriations that we've done were offsets, yep. A few things that I am inquiring about, but nothing that's abnormal. I did want to point out, if we took out those two large receipts that we posted, we have more like a 57% collection rate. So for 50% of the year, still doing well overall. I don't believe I made any notes on fund balances. We did settlement in June, and therefore our property tax funds are all have higher balances than they would other months in the year. I believe that is all I wanted to point out about the financial report.
Okay. Any questions for Jennifer? Hearing none, we'll move on to our treasurer's report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We ended the month of June with an account balance of $187,115,273.14 and a total interest for the month of $966,394.11. The average interest rate was 5.59, and the weighted average rate was also 5.59%. To date, the general fund has received 64% of the total interest in the amount of $2.9 million, and we are halfway through the year and sitting at 60% of our forecasted budget. So we appear to be on track to meet our forecasted budget for the year.
Okay. Any questions concerning the treasurer's report? Hearing none, thank you very much. Is there any public comment to come before us about any agenda items that we have this morning? If not, the next thing we have is our resolution 2024-17-CL approving the transfer of real property to Oasis.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-17-CL.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the resolution 2024-17-CL approving the transfer of real property to Oasis Community, Inc. Discussion.
Yeah, so this is, the Indiana Code gives the county a lot of discretion in transferring real estate to nonprofits. It's primarily a commissioner's decision, and they've got a public hearing coming up, I think on the 15th, and they'll have their own process. But when it's being transferred to a nonprofit for in this case, no consideration, which is permitted, and it exceeds a certain value, it also has to have the approval of the council. And so this resolution approves such a transfer to Oasis in substantially the terms set forth in the exhibit, which is what amounts to a purchase agreement that sets some guardrails on that they're going to do what they say they're going to do with the project, which is to create and maintain an inclusive, safe, person-centered housing community for adults with intellectual or developmental disabilities. And I think some folks from Oasis are here to speak to what that means exactly. But so this resolution is giving your blessing for this project to move forward.
Okay. Other discussion?
Yes, and as Doug mentioned, there are some folks here from the Oasis Board who would like a few minutes of your time to do a presentation on the project.
Okay.
Thank you so much for giving us some time today. It's so good to be here, and we're really grateful for this opportunity to share with you a little bit about the Oasis story and where we come from, what we're trying to do. Wendy Starr is distributing to you some information about the actual plan that we have, but I'd like to give you some background very briefly before she shares some of that information. The story actually begins about 10 years ago when 3 couples were engaging in some research about future options for where their child with intellectual or developmental disabilities would be able to live once they were no longer able to care for them. These parents, these 3 couples, did not yet know each other, but they were just seeking to answer some of the similar questions. Questions like, how can we support our son? They were all 3 boys at that time. How can we support our son in his desire to live the kind of life he wants to live independent from us? Questions like, what can we now do to prepare and plan for the transition instead of waiting for a crisis to force the transition later? 5 years ago, these 3 parents met each other, learned about their common quest, and their inability to find a acceptable solution to the problem they were facing. So they decided to meet and discuss options. My wife Ann and I are one of those parents, along with Tom and Angela Humphrey and Dan and Kathy Trinkle. Our earlier conversations began small, then started to grow and take shape and become more detailed. Twice along the way, we invited anyone with IDD, that's intellectual or developmental disabilities, anyone in the county to come together for a large gathering, and anyone who was caregiving for someone with IDD to come together to hear from them what they would like to see and to share with them what we were planning, test our idea and receive some feedback from them. Along the way, after several other months of research and refining our vision with many in-person as well as virtual meetings with other leaders of different housing models around the country, we took what we learned and developed a model that we believe can support a wide range of abilities here. So in April of 2020, just as the pandemic was kicking off, Oasis Community Incorporated received its nonprofit status and began its process of very slowly and intentionally, one step at a time, building what we have today. Money started coming in, and we began adding board members with very specific skill sets and very specific expertise to help us grow in where we needed to grow. We also began adding programs because we knew that we wanted to develop that kind of community that we were wanting. And so we wanted to begin with some very simple programs to increase socialization and decrease the kind of isolation that many adults with IDD experience. We sought for and hired a consultant, Mark Olson of LTO Ventures. Mark comes to us with 20 years of experience, and he was consulting 6 other projects in 4 different states while he himself was working on his own project in the state of Texas. Through Mark, we added a strong business and strategic plan that we continue to refine every year, and we review every time the board meets. Along the way, local businesses like Arcor Engineering, Star Associates, and others have come alongside and offered some phenomenal counsel, as well as some very generous in-kind donations. And so I can say that the 3 founding families are honestly humbled by the amount of support that we have received and found here in this community, as well as by the speed with which this little Oasis vision has continued to grow. Physically, as you can see in some of the drawings ahead of you there, the renderings, Oasis Community, it will be a neighborhood, including homes, green spaces, walking paths with safe traffic patterns, and an enrichment center. All accessible and all visitable with universal design principles well beyond any kind of ADA compliance. This is something that anyone can visit at any time. There's no barriers. The land infrastructure is the first step, followed by building the enrichment center, which will be followed by the residences. But putting structures on the land will be the easy part, because we also want to develop a community. The kind of community really that we take for granted and that every human being needs to flourish. So we intend to build a community of people with and without disabilities who choose to live together in supportive ways. A community where people of all generations and all abilities will be known, accepted, cared for, valued, and enjoyed for who they are and for what they can uniquely contribute to the community. Our monthly events are going to help foster friendships and end isolation and loneliness, teach skills, and build awareness of disability needs in our area. As was said earlier, our mission is to create and maintain an inclusive, safe, person-centered living community for adults with intellectual or developmental disabilities where each person can grow and enjoy life. It's a big vision, it's a big shoot for, but if we don't shoot for that, we're not going for utopia, we're going for something better than what's out there in many places right now. And once we have land, then our construction committee, which is already active and working, can be released to build something that I believe will be a blessing to many in our county, and I think will also be a blessing to the county as a whole as well. Wendy has distributed some excellent information for you, and I'd like to bring her forward to share some more on that.
Rob did a great job of the presentation, and I don't have his voice, so unfortunately I've got to follow that. If you want to take a look at the open drawings, just a little bit of the concept, and let you know that the seriousness of the project has been a culmination of not only doing strategic planning for this, but also part of that strategic planning is making sure that we generate revenue to support ourselves. So when we look at the drawing that actually shows the rendering of the development, which is a PD, by the way, we have met with area plan already to start the process, at least for conversation to get things going. We have already started architectural designs for the enrichment center, which is actually doubled in size since we started discussing this, along with meeting other locations that are doing similar work at this point in time. Many of them have found that their enrichment centers are too small for the programming, and that there's just been such an abundance of need for this that their programs continue to grow and grow and grow. In addition to this, we are situated near, if you look at the overhead aerial, 3 schools, which Dr. Handback has so graciously supported us by attending our press conference and has offered that with all 3 of the principals of those schools to support our systems with programs that will also work with the children of all 3 of those schools. Students that might be able to come over and do some interactive opportunities with the adults within the Learning Center. One of the things that we proposed is potentially a coffee shop also to help, again, generate revenue, maybe working with the schools to do some entrepreneur type of work, and employment opportunities for the folks that live there or others. So we wanted to make sure that this community wasn't just a place that you live. We wanted it to be all of the things that a lot of places aren't, and offering employment opportunities to generate revenue, again, to support that, as well as the enrichment center, which is designed also for security shelter for, I've got a lot of years of Red Cross, so that was a priority for me to make sure that there was a shelter that was safe during storms and support. And he also mentioned that we have a great construction team together. So our date is September of 25 is our hope date for breaking ground. We've come a long ways in this, and our construction team, and we also have Pat Grimes here has been hired to be our owner's rep to make sure that we project manage the site in a timely manner. So unlike many sites we have gone a lot further in making sure that we meet not only the county's request to fulfill a certain amount of things in a certain amount of time, but also as a safeguard for us to continue this project so that we meet the needs of the community that is not here. And we are only one of 2 communities at this point in time in the state of Indiana that are working on this model. But there are a number of others in different states. Journey 21 would be an example if you want to look one up, which is in Wisconsin. They haven't gotten to the house building part, but they have the enrichment center, and they're the ones that wish they had built a much bigger enrichment center at 10,000 square feet. Do you have any questions for us whatsoever?
Any
Go
questions?
ahead.
Yeah. So you're saying that there's a place that they're currently building up in Wisconsin. Does this type of a community currently exist anywhere in the country?
Yes, there are others throughout the country, different variations on what we're working with. Some are actually owned and operated by the service provider. So the folks that go in and do assisted living care, they do in-home assistance, those types of things. We are not going to be the service provider. We wanted to create a community of choice so that if the service provider, or if they choose not to use the service provider any longer, then they don't have to move out of their house or their home. With folks with IDD, transition is a huge challenge, and we're trying to minimize that.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about what the requirements are? How does someone live there? How do you decide who lives there?
Right, so there is going to be an application process, which we are working through at this point in time. Other communities have, and we've, again, adopted some of those rules that they have set forth. So they will be vetted out to live within the community. Some of the homes will be privately owned homes, but they do have to meet the application requirements. So they have to have somebody that has IDD living with them, or somebody with IDD could be living in their own. And they have multiple choices. So they'll have a choice of either living in a leased, maybe duplex, buying a potential condo in the quadplex that is owned by Oasis and operated by Oasis, or buying a freestanding 3-bedroom home. And there'll be a few choices for them to make. We are also working with a builder that sits on our construction team as well.
Will the Oasis be open to other counties like Howard County, or is it just primarily?
Yeah, we are not going to limit it that if they have to be a resident of Tippecanoe County to come and move in. I mean, with the vetting process, although we have had a tremendous amount of inquiry about this. As soon as we opened this up, people were already asking, where do I get on the waiting list? Where do I get on the waiting list? Because there just isn't anything like it. And the fact that, and I've worked in this industry for a long time. I left as the HR director for Wabash Center. So being familiar with the individuals and the families that are with IDD, one of the things that we've always struggled with is finding accessible housing, making sure that there's a transition opportunity for families that physically can no longer care for their children because of the disabilities that they have. And so the demand for this is pretty tremendous, and it's been very heartwarming to see how many people are interested in the project.
So it could be people with IDD, from families with a young child with IDD to grown adults with IDD living on their own, so it's a spectrum of
It is
people
a
in the
spectrum.
community? Okay.
The focus is adults, though.
Okay.
And so that's where our focus is, but
Okay.
that's not to say that, we're going to be a little bit flexible. But the focus is adults, because that's where we struggle the most with in finding those opportunities. And we've had, like Wabash Center obviously has some homes that they have that have been built specifically based off of universal design, but every single one of our locations will be, including the Enrichment Center, will have the support. The Enrichment Center will include a sensory room. It will also include an art activity dedicated room. There will be a half basketball court there as well, too, and just designed so that folks can come in and not only use it for IDD purposes, but maybe as an event. It's another way to support the revenue that we need to continue to run Oasis.
And then my other question is, you're asking, the county is donating the land.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that is going to be needed from the county from this council's perspective, or is that all coming from other sources for the programming or anything else?
Yeah, those will be coming through capital fundraising is what we're doing right now and focusing on. Programming has been up and running for a little while, but we'll seek in-kind donations as well as grants and other types of support throughout to continue to create and support the programs that we already have.
And Oasis is a 501c3 now?
Yes. And it will have 3 LLCs underneath it, one for residential, one for the enrichment center, and one for the programs and services.
Very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a lot of hard work, and thanks to these tremendous family members that thought to think outside of the box and go looking for a solution instead of just sitting back and waiting for it to come to them.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
To make a comment, as a parent of a child who may fit the particular needs of the Oasis community, he's 11, so not the adult age, and we'll see. I am very thankful, and I've kind of seen from afar Oasis through the Tippy Stars program and things over the last couple of years, and I want to thank the commissioners for their willingness to get to this point in the process, and everyone on the board, everyone involved in the Oasis community. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity to support an area of need and growth. And so thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, we have a motion on the floor. I'll go ahead and call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next item on our agenda is our consent agenda, which includes the minutes from our June 11th meeting. Are there any items in the consent agenda that need to be removed for further discussion or consideration? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Basham, to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. First in our appropriations is from Circuit Court. Do I have a motion for that?
Yes.
Call for attorney.
I make a motion to approve general fund appropriation of $30,000.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the additional appropriation for Circuit Court for pauper attorney of $30,000. Discussion.
Just here for questions if you have any.
Okay. Any questions for Judge Person?
Do you think this will take us through the end of the year, or are you anticipating needing more funds at this time?
That's the goal. We came back one time last year. When we set the budget, we knew we were probably going to have to come back one time, so we think this will cover us for the rest of the year.
Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion from council? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have an additional appropriation for jury expense for Superior Court 4.
I make a motion to approve general fund appropriation of $14,000 for Superior Court 4.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the additional appropriation for other disbursements, jury expense, $14,000 for Superior Court 4. Discussion.
So we'll probably be seeing these types of requests because they doubled the jury pay, and we didn't anticipate that when we did the budget.
Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion from council? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have similar for, but this is out of the jury pay fund of $2584 for Superior Court 6.
So I make a motion to approve jury pay fund appropriation for Superior Court 6 of $5,000.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the additional appropriation for jury expense of $5,000 from Fund 2584. Discussion.
Just using a little bit different fund because we want to use it
Okay.
up.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have Superior Court 7, additional appropriation.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve General Fund 1 appropriation for $20,000 for Superior Court 7.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the additional appropriation for Superior Court 7 for a total of $20,000. Discussion.
And we're just rolling all the same types of things, but it's all hitting Superior Court 7, so.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have Prosecutor Fund 2560.
Okay, I make a motion to approve user fee pretrial diversion fund appropriation for $35,000.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the user fee pretrial diversion fund 2560 appropriation in the amount of $35,000. Discussion.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is for the remodeled second floor. If you have any chance, I invite you over to look at it. I want to thank Tony and his team. They did an amazing job overseeing the reconstruction. They are truly an asset for our community, what they do.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have Fund 4266 appropriation.
I make a motion to approve law enforcement warrant fund appropriation of $35,000.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Law Enforcement Warrant Fund 4266 appropriation in the amount of $35,000. Discussion.
This is to purchase a new vehicle, which was ordered in January for our investigators to take a vehicle offline. I think it's a 2014 or 2012.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council?
Well, it is my understanding, and I think that the commissioners have talked to Pat. We had talked at budget time about getting kind of a handle on what's going on with cars in the community, in our county. And I know that Commissioner Murtaugh has been working on it, and that we're implementing a new process through Enterprise. So Pat will be able to order, and I think it'll be like a lease with the county with a new car, keep track of mileage, gas, and then turn over the car so we won't have to have old cars.
Yes, and this one was ordered before the Enterprise deal came together. This is ordered like in January, so we ordered it.
Oh, wait, no, that. I bet.
Yeah, the next one we do, and next year we'll go through Enterprise. So.
Okay. Well, we'll chat offline about that. We'll
Thank you.
need to run it through the enterprise system.
So,
Okay.
Okay.
Any other
So as long as we
discussion?
run it through the Enterprise and be able to do that, then get it online, so we can move it forward in July. Okay, good.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the probation
Follow the process.
salary statements.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the salary statement as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the salary statements for probation as presented. Discussion.
Good morning.
Morning.
Dave Hollinger from your probation department. So the amended salary statement is a reflection on a crisis mode we're at right now in intake. And so if you look at the probation department, we have three divisions. We have the adult side, we have the juvenile side, and then we also have court services. Within the juvenile division, we have two parts. We have the courthouse side, and then we have the intake side. The intake side is for when a juvenile is arrested, they're transported to the jail. Where the intake facility is, they're left with our intake staff. The law enforcement officer who made the arrest goes on about their way. There's no babysitting. They don't have to deal with that child anymore. At that point, that juvenile remains with our juvenile intake team. At that point, we decide where they're going to go. They're going to go home. They're going to go home with conditions like electronic monitoring or day reporting, or in some cases, they may go off to a juvenile detention facility. We are currently down 3 full-time staff at the intake facility. We are in such a crisis mode that we've shut down the third shift. Third shift being 11:30 p.m. to 7 a.m. 25% of our calls come on the third shift. During a third shift, if we've closed that down, as in we are not staffing it, a law enforcement officer takes the juvenile who's in custody down there, and then we get called out, and we have to decide whether or not we're going to go to the intake facility. We can do some basic screening over the phone to decide whether or not we need to get involved in this case, whether or not they can go home for later, or whether or not we need to go down now and meet the law enforcement officer, free him or her up so they can go back out on shift, and then we can deal with the juvenile who's in custody. I have 3 full-time positions that are unfilled, 4 total on the juvenile side, 3 of which are assigned to the intake facility. What I'm proposing is that we consider this to be a public safety issue. And in so, considering it as a public safety issue, I need to decide how is it that I can recruit more people to come into the probation, or come in and start in the intake facility that we can recruit. So what I'm proposing is that we take what is now the P0, or the starting salary for a probation officer, and move them up to a P2, which means they're in their second year. I'm sorry, 0, 1, 2. They're somewhere in their 3rd year as a probation officer. So we're moving them from a starting wage of $41,000 up to a starting wage of $49,000. And you say, wait, Dave, that's a 20% increase. That's a lot. And I agree with you, that's a lot. But I want to compare with you a starting salary position of a probation officer that we're paying right now, the minimum salary as mandated by the minimum as mandated by the Indiana Judicial Center. We're paying $41,079 per year. That's the 2024 salary. $49,000, and let's round up to $100,000. A DCS case manager with the same responsibilities, case managing, working with juveniles, working with families, working with high-risk kids, working with low-risk kids, they're making almost 13% more per year right now in 2024. Their wage is $47,320 annual. Their requirements to be hired as a DCS case manager are the same as the ones for my juvenile probation officers. They have to have a minimum baccalaureate degree from an accredited university. Let's go to another one. Similar, case manager at Cary Home. Similar education requirements. They're starting out at $49,661. That's a 17% wage increase. You say, can you make it any worse? Sure I can. Let's go to the CASA. I say worse. I don't mean to say worse CASA, but CASA case manager, their starting wage right now is $56,305. That's 37% greater than my staff that I'm trying to recruit to juvenile intake that's directly related to a public safety issue. How do I recruit someone fresh out of Purdue, IU, Muncie, my favorite university, Ball State, ISU, Indiana State University? Right. How do I recruit them with a baccalaureate degree, probably a few student loan obligations, maybe trying to start a family, I don't know. They're trying to find some place to live around here, and I say, hey, I'm going to offer you anywhere between 37, 13, 17, let's say 20% less than you can go out and get anywhere else, plus I'm going to give you the additional bonus benefit that I'm going to make you work thirds, 11:30 p.m. to 7 a.m., plus you're only going to get 1 day off per weekend. So when I come saying I have a public safety issue, or I'm struggling with a crisis at the intake facility, I'm having a desperate time trying to recruit those people. And I can't do it with $41,000 a year. So what I've done is I've proposed that we take all new hires and anyone on staff who's currently below a P2 level, and we bring them all up to a P2. That's where you get your almost 20% wage increase. And you say, wait a minute, we can't do that. That's not in the budget. Yes, it is. We have it in the budget. In fact, we already have it in the 2024 budget, full-time salaries full-time salaries for 2024, they're already budgeted. Because of vacancies, we came up with, out of the general fund alone, we have a surplus of $107,000 at the end of June. Those are all almost all of it's directly related to the fact we've been unable to fill positions. So we have $107,000 in the general fund that is unused as of the end of June. We also have 2 full-time positions that I'm paying out of the probation user fee fund. If you take my request to pull everybody up to a P2 through the end of this year, right, the impact on the general fund is going to be $8,100. That's for the 2 full-time positions that are paid out of general fund right now at intake. $8,100. I'm going to feel the same impact against my probation user fee fund at $8,100 if I were to bring those people that are P0 to P2 also up to the same level. So I have 4 current full-time positions that I'm wanting to pull up to a P2. You say, okay, well, do we have that money? Yes, we do. What about the 4 that we need to fill? What about those positions? If we bring those up to a P2 standard, the impact through the end of the year is going to be $16,000 and change. That's how much of an increase. So we go from $41,000 to $49,000 on 4 full-time positions. Those are currently unfilled. I can't recruit them. What am I doing at our intake facility right now on 3rd shifts? Here's how it goes. So if you arrest somebody and you take them down to intake, then we get called. On 3rd shifts, we get called. And then we have to make some quick decisions as to whether or not we're going to go there to intake and meet the officer. If it's a big problem, we have to call another person in because we just can't, there's just tremendous safety issues with some of the kids we're working with now. In fact, 2 weeks ago, we had 4 officers that happened to be down at the intake facility, 4 or 5, that were directly involved in a kid in crisis that picked up a bench that he was secured to, and it turned into a big problem at the intake facility. Barry, you might remember on the north end there where we'd sit kids. It turned into a big crisis. So I have to worry about it from a safety standpoint of both the child and also my staff. So what I'm asking you to consider, and I understand in talking with my council reps earlier that there may not be any decision today, and I know it's a bigger challenge across the board. And I know that previously I've been here when the sheriff's been in here pleading for help and just in hiring jailers or road deputies. And I know that the prosecutor's been standing up here saying, I can't recruit young, new attorneys with this rate, and here's why. And I'm now following in their lead and asking that you please consider that we have the funding through the end of 2024 to cover my proposal. I would ask that you please consider doing that soon. And I'm happy to, I hope I've not been too dramatic, but I'm trying to let you know that we're in real crisis right now in intake.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Comments, questions
Dave,
from?
Yes, Brian.
You did a great job, excellent job explaining the whole situation and pointing out the research you've done with the salaries and everything. And I'm totally in support of this happening and being able to utilize those funds that's already there. We're not going to be over budgeted and so forth, and it's going to help you bring in. And as you had mentioned, other departments having the same, they should follow this blueprint of what you've done to bring their applicants and potential candidates to be hired. So I would hope that we could go ahead and pass this today so he can get started and help him with the crisis situation he has.
David, thank you for your time for explaining. It definitely is helpful. And in talking with Sadie earlier, this is a bigger issue overall with all departments. So I think we do need to take a step back in a little bit of time to evaluate everything, just like you and I had talked about. So, yeah, I would recommend pushing this back to next month for a decision.
Dave, can you talk a little bit about how the salaries are set in probation versus maybe some of the other departments?
Certainly, and
Because I think that is one little a difference for us to think about.
Yes, certainly. And also, I apologize, I didn't want to overwhelm everybody with my panic mode, but I was going to share with you the intake traffic numbers. We had, in 2023, we had 642 arrests we dealt with. It's in 2023, of which 98 of those, almost 100 of them, then went on to secure detention. We can't just do that without meeting with whoever the arrestee is, doing some screening and deciding what we're going to do based upon the severity of the offense and some other factors. In 2024, almost through the end of June, we had 255 arrests, of which 25 moved on to secure facilities, and 25% of those were on third shift. We had 220 kids we dealt with in the last 18 months on third shift. So, right, so the probation officers are unique for many reasons, not the least of which is that our salaries are set by the Judicial Conference of Indiana. And the way that the probation officers set, oh, there it is. Hey, that's neat. And I printed copies. So the salaries are set by the Judicial Conference of Indiana. That's the minimum salary. And I've been at this for 30-plus years, and sometimes I have a hard time breaking down on the left-hand side years of experience in the minimum salary. Basically, a starting salary for a probation officer in 2024 is $41,079. After you finish your first year, then you move to 44, and so on. They jump. On the far right-hand side, you'll see there are additional administrative stipends depending upon if you're a chief, deputy chief, or if you're in a supervisory position. But these are the minimum. I'd like to kick in that there's one other important factor to consider. There are 34 counties, that is greater than 1/3 of all the counties in Indiana, pay above the minimum salary. And you say, well, those must be small counties like Benton or Warren or Carroll, where the impact to pay above the minimums wouldn't be that great on the general fund. Actually, there are many counties that are larger than Tippecanoe County. They're paying well above the minimum salaries all the way down through 20 years. Those include Marion County, Allen County, I believe it's Hamilton County. I know because of my good deputy chief, Deanna Mail, who happens to know somebody down in Putnam County, they just updated their salary schedule and they're paying an additional $5,000 above the minimums across the board. Montgomery County down in Crawfordsville does the same thing. I do have trouble recruiting probation officers when they can look at Montgomery County, Crawfordsville, or I can't remember if Howard County pays above the minimum or not. But these schedules are set every year by the Judicial Conference of Indiana. Those are the minimums. If you don't meet the minimums, we can't send our probation officers to certification training, and then they don't become POs.
Okay. Anything else, counsel?
Thank you for hearing my pleadings.
Thanks, Dave. Again, that was awesome.
Oh, thank you,
Appreciate
Barry.
all the information.
You want to move for a table?
Sure, I'd like to put a motion in place to push this back to next month.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Hamilton, a second from Councilman Basham to table this consideration till our August 13th meeting. Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye, and just for the record to show, I would propose that we take care of it today to help him with the crisis situation.
Okay. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Thank you, Barry.
Next, we have Cume Bridge 1135 appropriation.
Mr. President, I would move that we approve from Cume Bridge Fund 1135, the Marsh Lake Dam expenditures of a total sum of $120,000.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Basham, a second from Councilman Richard to approve the Cume Bridge Fund 1135 appropriation in the total of $120,000. Discussion.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
The 3120 and the 4110 right-of-way and engineering and architects, that $80,000 is the Marsh Lake. The 3630, 40,000 is, we're way ahead of pace on getting our guardrails smashed this year. about double pace. But that money, that's just an appropriation to cover, because in most cases, when they pile up on the guardrail, we got them. And they have their insurance has to pay for the guardrails, so that's a reimbursement that'll come back into the fund. So it's only about an $80,000 take out of reserves.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Juvenile Alternatives 2596 appropriation.
Make a motion, we approve the Juvenile Alternatives Project Income Fund 2596 appropriation in the amount presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Juvenile Alternatives Income Fund 2596 appropriation in the amount of $10,000. Discussion.
Good morning.
Good morning.
These are all related to our Juvenile Department of Corrections grant funding that we receive. It's ongoing. It supports prevention in terms of truancy and attendance programming. It supports our intensive home-based services as well as our day reporting and our evidence-based groups that we offer.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have 9641 appropriation.
Make a motion, we approve the Juvenile Alternatives DOC Grant Fund 9641 grant appropriation in the amount presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the DOC Grant Fund 9641 grant appropriation in the amount of $271,637. Discussion.
Same statement.
Same statement. Same thing.
Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have salary statements for juvenile alternatives.
Make a motion, we approve the salary statements of probation officer / surveillance officer, the evidence-based programming coordinator, and school-based youth liaison as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the salary statements for the positions that are listed and presented. Discussion.
These are our statements to support that grant.
All for the same thing. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have general fund additional appropriation for the villa.
I would move that we entertain and take a look at this request. I see, oh, there you are, Deanna. It's a request for $600,000. It's for some maintenance and operating supplies and housing needs. And Deanna, I know you'll explain it well.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Basham, a second from Councilman Richard, to approve the additional appropriation for the villa for obviously a lot of building needs in the total amount of $600,000. Discussion. Good morning.
It's, I've been working with Dave with this as far as improving some of our building areas. The first thing is all of our toilets in the building or many of them are still original. They're wall mount toilets. And with the residents that we have and the way that they sit on the toilets, we have problems with them breaking off the wall. So we want to go and switch out, as we've been switching out the ones that are broken, we've put floor mounts in with a back flush. That's what we wanted to go through and finish doing that with the rest of the toilets before we have more issues with them breaking off. We have had to repair several of them. The other thing is paving our driveway. We'd like to get the total driveway paved. The finished siding and roofing the main outbuildings to maintain those. And in the kitchen, the wall, we're wanting to put the stainless around the wall, kind of like what they did over at Carey Home. Tony suggested that we do that. And then we need to get, I think it's 8 more additional security cameras in areas that since we've put up the security cameras, we've noticed we have areas that are not, we can't monitor. And then the last one is finish replacing the rest of the flooring in our main hallway areas. It's not in the resident rooms, it's just in the hallway areas. We had it separated out into 4 different sections, and we did 3 of the sections with the grant that we received, and this would finish out the rest of it around the main hallway in the rooms.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council?
Yes, I got a question. Deanna, these were all bids. I see they're all down to the
Yes, they all were. They were all, but
local contractors and reputable people. I mean, I
Yes.
got to give this money, I'd like to know who I'm paying.
yes.
Who are they?
For which project?
Okay, the first one, maintenance and repair of building the structure, $144,092.
Because some of those have combinations of, like the toilet, I'm going to tell you, the toilet was like Big Ben, and I can't remember the other 2. I don't have all those papers with me.
Right.
The driveway paving, we had Reith, Riley, Milestone, and I think Joel's was the 3rd one.
Mike Riley Construction is the one that got the bid for the buildings.
You got the bids?
Mike Riley,
Yeah.
so we got the quotes from him, and then we got some quotes from a couple other people's. Like you said, we had 3 quotes for the driveways. Big Ben's, or whoever's been doing the flooring already has been, Big Ben for
The flooring is
putting
creative,
toilets and stuff. They're the
but we
ones
had
that
3
fix them,
different
so we're
bids.
using the same people. So this basically get. Right.
Yeah.
Same
Right.
contractor we used for 88.
Right. So,
So there's been a lot let go for a long time, it looks like, so.
well, this should put her back to where she's
That great?
good. We're finding out Benton County's closing their county home, so they're potentially. 12
Adams
inch-
County just closed theirs, and we got a couple of residents in from there.
So we're down to what, 7 county homes left in the state?
It's either 6 or 7 when Benton closes.
So-
What is our population capacity?
Right now, we're at 71, and we have capacity for 86. But I've got 3 or 4 referrals we're working with right now. It seems like recently I've picked up one, and I've once moved out, so we've kind of stayed about the same, but
But we replaced
I
all the
look-
handrails throughout the building. I mean, we're getting every ADAs if possible. The showers, the
The-
restrooms are getting all fixed
the
up. to
2
be-
main shower rooms, the men's is almost complete. The women's, they'll be starting on after that. That's our main ADA project, that and the handrails were this year.
We're getting the asphalt taken care of. Once again, walking across gravel for our citizens and things like that, so. It's basically.
We have several on rollators, and it's not easy to push those rollators across the gravel.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion?
You know, I haven't been out there probably for 6 or 7 months, but I can say the work that has been done, it really does look nice. I mean, it really did need some repairs, and ADA accessible. And as she says, you know, we're one of 6 or 7, and so, I mean, I think that capacity of 86, we're going to hit there pretty soon, so.
So I'd like to make a comment. $600,000 is a lot of money to come in the middle of the year and ask for the general fund. Luckily, we have the money. So I would encourage you to look out and do a maintenance plan and put some money in the budget for the next 2 or 3 years so we can anticipate this and we don't have to come back in the middle of the year and we may not have the money next time, so.
Okay.
I think some of this money coming from is from the sale of the land around it as well.
Yeah, I was going to say
So
that was.
it wasn't money that was there a year ago, and it's using the area around them to make the best situation for.
But it would still be
them.
helpful to have it a little bit planned out.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Misdemeanor Fund 1175 for the sheriff.
I'll make a motion that we approve misdemeanor Fund 1175 appropriation in the amount of $15,000.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, second from Councilman Murray, to approve the Misdemeanor Fund 1175 appropriation for the sheriff in the amount of $15,000. Discussion.
You have any questions about it?
Just like,
Any questions from council? Hearing none, All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you.
That is approved. Thank you. Next, we have Fund 8320, a grant appropriation.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Energy Development Fund 8320 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Energy Development Fund 8320 grant appropriation in the amount of $11,825. Discussion.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So Tippecanoe County is doing such an excellent job that when we applied for this funding from the Department of Energy, we only applied for $170,000, and that's what the first appropriation we brought to you last month. And when we received the grant agreement, they gave us another $11,825. So we need to appropriate that funds too. And this is to make assessments on all of the energy efficiency in all of our facilities in the county.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Fund 1148 appropriation.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Fund 1148 and the total requested amount $175,742.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Richard, a second from Councilman Basham to approve the Drug-Free Community Fund 1148 appropriation in the amount of $175,742. Discussion.
Tippecanoe County is awarded this money to disperse to the community for various grant awards related to the Drug-Free Coalition. And so just asking for your approval to go ahead and spend those out. Once they give us the agency names, we distribute the checks out.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Any committee reports for us this morning? Unfinished business? New business? Commissioner FYI.
Good morning again. Just two things to remind you. The county fair runs week after next, the 19th through the 26th. So hope to see you out there often. And then in your mailbox, you should have received an invite for a reception at the new shelter. That project is closing up. It's almost completely done. They're doing the finishing touches. That event is on the 8th, I think, from 4 to 6. I don't have it right there in front of me. But and then there'll be a community open house that'll be scheduled once the animals are in, and hopefully a lot of folks will come in and adopt some dogs and cats. So looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Any public comment to come before us this morning?
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Jaime Ortiz, Vice Chair of the Libertarian Party of Tippecanoe. I have a couple questions on the Oasis community thing. I showed up late. Can you kind of clarify for me, is the county giving land to a private entity? Yeah.
Yes, nonprofit.
Okay, but it's still a private entity. It's not government related. Obviously, you guys already voted on that. Wish you hadn't. What's the value of the property that's being given? Does anyone have the numbers?
What was your question?
What's the value of the property that's being given away?
In West Lafayette?
How many acres is that, Tom?
30 acres. An evaluation.
Well, it was in the middle of Purdue, it'd be $200 a square foot. I don't know, it's out here in Harrison High School.
But I don't think the term that you used, given away, is accurate. I think what we're doing is investing in the well-being of the citizens of our community. So
I
we're
didn't
not
realize
giving
that was a
away-
role of government, was
Pardon?
charity.
To me, it's not giving it away, it's investing in the future of our community members, our citizens.
That's not the role of government, sir, though. I mean, it's a private entity. I think that they should acquire the funds through donations like they said they had for other things.
They're going to work on that.
And I think that by selling this land to them, you might be able to fund some of the shortages that you have in other areas like the probation officers without having to raise taxes on people.
And the taxes won't be raised because of that. The funding's there.
But I mean, if you had other shortages somewhere else, you could use that money for that. Just saying.
It's a debate, but obviously we as a council feel that very worthwhile and a very good benefit to the community.
Okay. I was going to also ask, how much other land does the county own? Does anyone know?
What about, don't we own something out there by the landfill, Kirkpatrick or something? I don't know. Tom and the commissioners could answer a lot of that.
There's countless parcels because of road drainage projects.
Well, I'm just talking like empty plots of land like that. Is there somewhere to look that up? Okay. And it's listed under Tippecanoe County?
Tippecanoe County or Board of Commissioners.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that was it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I wanted to take a minute to talk about Dave's presentation. We've heard a lot of these throughout the year. Jennifer and I have put in lots of hours calculating how we can make everyone whole, make everyone happy, what we're going to do for 2025. So the other departments that we've heard from so far, we've heard from corrections, we've heard from the sheriff, we've heard from the health department, the surveyor, maintenance, the clerk's office, Board of Elections, probation, the courts, CASA, and the prosecutor. So far, those are the ones that I've heard from just since budget cycle has started for either mid-year or what are we doing for 2025. We understand that 2024 is, this economy that we're in is a lot different. It's harder for young people to live. It's harder for people to start fresh out of college with student loans and cars and start a family. We know these things. We've been working diligently on it. We have a meeting later today with the commissioners to talk about these things. So while I am in support of probation, I am in support of the sheriff, we are a government entity. We have only so many funds. As Lisa explained, we need to start projecting. Jennifer has asked for projections for multiple years down the road so that we can better plan for these things. So I just would like everyone to know we are working on it. We hear all of it. And it's nearly every single department beating down Jennifer and I's door relentlessly. If we had all the money in the world, we'd give it, but there's only so far it'll go.
Thank you, Sadie. Any other public comment?
Just wanted to make an announcement or a reminder that budgets are due by Friday. By the end of the day, I've probably received a third of them from departments, so I'm expecting them to come in later this week.
Okay. With that, our next meeting is August 13th, which means we're creeping up on budget time, as Jennifer just alluded to, so get prepared for all those meetings with department heads. If nothing else, I'll take the last motion.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
I don't know what happened to him. His daughter, Donna, was sitting here, a board member, going back to talk to Tracy, and I have no idea.